Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So we're back at it again on this part 2 of this build for this giveaway guitar. And again, I haven't released all the details on the giveaway yet, but I think that's coming in a video in about 2 weeks. We're at a point now where we're going to get to the bridge, we're going to install the pick guard, probably the back plate, and hopefully get pretty close to a setup, which will be part 3. With the neck installed, we're finally to the point where I can start to locate the bridge. If you remember, the bridge we're using is a Wilkinson M series tremolo, and it's got 2 posts instead of the normal 6-screw mounting. I've already gone ahead and marked some of the locations by extending the lines of the sides of the neck onto a piece of masking tape and then trying to estimate where the center line should be this way, using the pick guard as part of my location, the location of the old tremolo, and also how much forward and backward space I have in the hole. Ultimately, I've decided it's only about a 1/16 of an inch or so in front of where the old center line was for the old bridge, and I've already filled all of those holes with hardwood dowels. Once I find my center line, I simply measure out 1 3/32 from each side of that, because these posts are at a 2 3/16 inch width. From that point, it's just a matter of marking a starting location with a punch and then drilling the holes out to the correct depth. I've not been able to find a good diagram or any resources on how to actually mount this bridge. These are probably supposed to be 10mm post holes based on the size of these bushings. I can definitely get the depth specification from the bushing itself. So I don't think it's exactly a gamble what I'm about to do, but I'm just going to drill these holes and we'll see how it goes. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and try to drill these holes, and I think I'm going to try to use the drill press. As it turns out, drilling those holes was a little bit trickier than I expected, but in the end I got them in okay. Essentially, my drill press wasn't big enough to get the body into it. Then with my hand drill, some of the smaller bits were walking a little bit, but by the time I got to the larger bit, I think everything's placed okay. I've test fitted the pick guard and I'm not having any problems here, so I think as soon as some of this touch-up paint that I've got here in the middle dries, I'm going to go ahead and test fit the bridge, put a couple strings on, make sure the string alignment's okay with the neck, and then we can proceed with the pick guard. Okay, well, I've dropped the tremolo in place and I had a spare nut laying around, so this isn't glued in, it's just set here. And I've been using this test string to check the distance from the string to the edge of the fretboard on each side. And right now everything looks good. There's a little bit of adjustability in the neck pocket, so I can shift the neck just a little bit. But right now I think everything looks fine, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop on the pick guard. The Wilkinson M series bridges come in different widths, and this one happens to be a 54mm width. If I was choosing a width, I probably would have chosen the 52.5, but it's not that much different, and it really comes down to the choice of the player. There is enough width on the sides of these SC necks to accommodate that 54mm bridge. It's just tight. When mounting the pick guard, as I've said many times, I tend to try to locate it around the bridge, evenly spaced. Typically, when I align it with the neck and the bridge, everything else falls in line. But the most important reason to do that is so your pickups end up right under the strings. Alright, so let me roll a little sped up footage of me mounting this pick guard. Basically what I did was, once I got the pick guard aligned, I went ahead and drilled 1 hole next to the bridge. That kind of holds everything in place, and with that 1 screw there and a good tight fit around the neck pocket, the pick guard won't move when I'm drilling the rest of the holes. And remember, I start each one of my holes with a starter punch, then I go ahead and drill the holes. Once everything's drilled and cleaned up, I mount the ground strap to the cavity, I pass the bridge wire through to the tremolo cavity, and I pass the jack wires through to the jack cavity. At that point I can install all the screws for the pick guard, and I'm using black screws on this just to hide them a little bit better. And like I said, I'm going for a black and chrome mixture of parts here. Once the pick guard is finally installed, I can locate the jack plate and I can drill the body and install those screws. Then I remove it again and I solder on the jack, and then I can reinstall the plate. Then I'll flip the whole guitar over, solder on the wire for the bridge ground, and all my electronics and wiring are complete at that point. Alright, well, it's a new day, and playing around off camera, I went ahead and switched out the 54mm tremolo for another one that I found. It's also a Wilkinson M series, and it's a 52.5mm tremolo. I think in the end it's just going to fit a little bit better, and it looks almost identical, except the saddles are just a bit different. But I've switched out the black screws and the black adjustment screws, so it's still got that chrome and black theme. I've also glued in the nut blank All I did was shape this down so that it fit into the slot. I haven't filed the top of it or anything like that. Then I turned my attention to the back of the guitar, and we'll roll a little footage on that. Basically, I started out by drilling all the holes out to 1/8 of an inch and then inserting some wooden dowels into those holes and gluing them in place. Once the glue dried, I cut off all of those dowels, and then I covered each one of those dowels in a little bit of super glue just to seal the ends of the wood, and then ultimately some touch-up paint after that. Then I positioned the back plate with a little bit of tape, used a punch to start the holes, and then drilled the holes, and finally installed the screws into the back plate. I will of course have to remove this back plate to do my final tremolo setup, but at least now I know it fits, all my string holes are accessible, and of course it's less work that I'll have to do later. Okay, so we're getting really close. Now what's left to be done from here? Really I only have 2 parts left to install. The tremolo arm doesn't count because that's a given, but I do have the string trees and the strings themselves. And then I've also got to finish slotting the nut, and I won't actually put the string trees on until the strings are installed. Now to put the slots in the nut, I am going to be using my Music Nomad nut files. I can't talk enough about those. I really love them. I'm not sponsored by them in any way. If you do buy them off of my Amazon links, I do get a little commission, but that has nothing to do with my opinion. I've used these things now for dozens of nuts, and I think they just cut like the first day I took them out of the package. I've used them for guitars, I've used them for basses, and even though these things are quite expensive, I've gotten my money's worth out of these by far. Now I mentioned that I had an old nut on hand. This nut actually came from a Stratocaster, but it happens to be a 42mm nut. I put this nut behind my regular nut and just draw the lines on with a pencil, and that gives me my starting location for each one of the slots for the strings. Now I'm going to be doing this filing off camera, but something I've been doing recently is starting the slots with each one of the files first and using a small straight edge across the nut down to the 2nd fret. Then I'll measure the distance between the straight edge and the 1st fret. And initially I shoot for about 10 thousandths, and then I'm going to put the strings on and do the final filing from there. But that gives me a great starter slot and gets me most of the way done with my nut before I even put the strings on. If I was a little bit more confident in the straight edge that I'm actually using, I'd probably go down to about 5 or 6 thousandths and be just about done with the slots. But I think this way is a nice compromise for me. Okay, like I said, I'll do some of that nut work off camera, and then when we come back next time, we're going to work on the full setup of this guitar, and I'll probably even play it a little bit. I've been working on those giveaway rules, and I've just about got them nailed down. I don't think those will drop in the next video. I think I'll have a video dedicated to just the giveaway that will drop after the last episode for this guitar build. So look forward to that, but it's definitely going to be early August. Now I'm going to be heading out on a little bit of a vacation, and by the time this video drops, I'll already be back. Hopefully I'm going to be bringing back some future projects with me, including a pretty cool red knob Fender amp that I found that needs a little bit of help. And as long as Facebook Marketplace cooperates with me, I'll grab that and we'll do that repair on a future episode. As always, thank you for all the likes and the comments. I appreciate all the subscriptions. I appreciate when you visit my Amazon links. Make sure that you subscribe so that you can see this giveaway video when it actually drops. I'm guessing the odds will be pretty good just based on the average views of my videos. And anyway, I'll see you guys next time.